What else are we talking about on today's show other than the Cowboys' ongoing coaching search? 4 interviews have been completed. Kellen Moore, the Eagles' offensive coordinator, on Friday. Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach, on Saturday. Leslie Frazier back on Monday. And then Brian Schottenheimer last night on Tuesday. Somehow these are 4 options. I don't know how. I don't know why. But these are the 4 names that have actually interviewed for the job. I don't like making us do this, but you have to pick one. KM for Kellen Moore, RS for Robert Saleh, LF for Leslie Frazier, or BS for Brian Schottenheimer. Let's go more in depth on the Schottenheimer side of things since he had his interview last night. The Cowboys coaching search continues to drag on after it had kind of reached a fever pitch last night after Shan Shariff had tweeted out, of Wonderful the Fan, by the way, hearing an offer could be coming soon for Brian Schottenheimer. Now, Sean was early on the Schottenheimer buzz, which give him a lot of credit for being right on that one there. Interviews come and gone, and, 15, 16, 17 hours later, depending on when you're watching, I suppose, no hire made yet, or no offer made yet. Jane Slater tweeting this out late last night after a long interview for Schotty and the Cowboys. So the Cowboys just completed their interview with Brian Schottenheimer. I'm told he's being considered for both the head coach and the OC position. They talked about everything in a 3.5+ hour interview. Honestly, what are we doing here? Why does this organization do what really nobody else does and say, well, we're interviewing this guy for the head coach, but, also we'll interview him for the OC? This is the head coaching search. Let's do that first. Let's hire a head coach and then figure out the OC-DC plan. Not do this weird, we'll talk to both guys about both roles and figure out what happens there. Jane Slater also reported that Schottenheimer wants to call the plays wherever he ends up, which I don't blame him. He's an offensive mind. Of course he wants to call the plays. That's what he wants to do. He hasn't gotten to call plays in almost 5 years. Now, is certainly worth mentioning that there is no current reported offensive coordinator interviews, or you don't even need a request. He's a free agent. He can do it wherever he wants to go. If there's a team that wants him as an OC, he can do that. There's nothing stopping him for that. And I think if there were interest, he'd probably use that as leverage to get what he wants out of the Dallas Cowboys, too. I don't like where we're at. I don't like anything going on right now. I am an unhappy person. What is your confidence level right now in the Cowboys coaching? I know it says 1 to 10. You can put 0 in there. I don't care at this point. 0, 1, maybe you're a diehard truther, and a 10. It's the pinned comment on today's show. Let me know in the comments section of today's video. Now, Ian Rapoport also had an update last night as it relates to Schotty and the Dallas Cowboys. And he got a couple different quotes saying, nothing's imminent, also through the line, famous last words. A lot of kind of laid out why this could make some sense. So I'll let Rap explain and then discuss it. Been plenty of times Schotty has been a hot head coach candidate. He's got a really strong resume, not just as an offensive coordinator, but as a leader and someone who can keep up the culture that the Cowboys have. Now, first off, is the culture a positive thing? Culture is sometimes a funny word. It's either it's good or it's bad, and it's only are you winning or not winning games. I don't know. I haven't had the success I want. I think changes to the culture would be a good thing. And there was a time, by the way, that Schottenheimer was a hot head coaching candidate. It was a decade ago. It was back in the early stage of his Jets offensive career. His last head coaching interview request was over a decade ago. Yeah, that should raise red flags in the end. Rapp also pointed out, hey, there'd be familiarity there as well. For someone who likes having Dak Prescott having a lot of success, you'd have a lot of continuity, a lot of similar offensive schemes from before. Now, look, this part isn't a bad thing. If you get, and there's been some whispers and rumors that, when they had the come to Mike meeting last year, not this previous, but the year before that, 2023, Schottenheimer was a big factor in taking other teams' plays and putting those in the playbook and getting those things to work. And that's good. I also think that new ideas are needed. And Schottenheimer is not a young, innovative offensive mind. He's never been that, and he's not going to be that at in his 50s at this point. Rapp also had this to say. And look, for the Cowboys, there's definitely a thought that for Jerry Jones, he maybe didn't want to pay top dollar for a head coach. This probably wouldn't be that. We can drop the probably. You're not going to pay Schotty anything. He'll probably be the cheapest head coach in the NFL. And it is very clear from their interviews, from Jerry's own words about incentive contract bullcrap, the Cowboys don't want to spend for a head coach. And this is the worst part of it all. Any of you listen to the Ian interview, he's kind of like, it's not great, blah, blah, blah. I don't like that. The Jones boys don't want to spend. It is not a positive thing to save money. And I can't understate how bad this is. There is no salary cap on coaches. There's none. It is just how much do you want to spend? How much does your billionaire owner of the most valuable sports franchise in human history want to spend on getting the best coaching staff possible to win a freaking championship? It is just being cheap. There is nothing else to put with this. Jerry Jones once said he would write an obscene check for a Super Bowl. That is a lie. That is not true. He does not want to write that check. He's never tried to do it. He's cheaping out potentially in this coaching search. What bothers me is that a lot of you guys out there, everyone watching, we care more. The Jones boys have yet to show they actually care about championships, and that remains profoundly frustrating for me. Now, we all have bad habits, and we certainly know how hard it can be to kick those bad habits. That's where Fume comes in. It's not about quitting. It's about finding a better alternative. Fume has created an innovative flavored air device. It's perfect for those moments when you want to break away from bad habits and still have something enjoyable to reach for. Their award-winning flavored air device draws flavor to your mouth, not your lungs. It's free from nicotine or vapor, and it's safe to use anywhere. It's also an awesome fidget tool with magnets and clicks that can help calm anxiety. Fume is not a vape, and it can be used as an alternative to vaping or quitting vaping. If vapor was a soda, think of Fume as more of an herbal tea. Stopping a bad habit by going cold turkey is hard on your brain. Fume works by replacing your hand-to-mouth fixation, calming nervous tension through fidgeting, and distracting you from your bad habit with delicious flavor. Fume has already helped over 300,000 people build better habits. Try Fume today, and if you order the Journey Pack now using code CHATSPORTS, you'll get a free Fume topper. It's an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Go to tryfume.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on screen. Appreciate Fume sponsoring us here at the Cowboys Report. So that recaps what we know. And maybe know isn't even the right word for it. What we think. Now, Nick Harris made a very good point on Twitter/X these days, the other night, that there's a lot of voices and a lot of speculation that comes out of the Star, especially when there's no head coach and it's all kind of chaos and you got different personnel executives and all kinds of things being discussed. And trying to parse through, okay, who really wants Schottenheimer here? Pure speculation on my part. Wouldn't that feel like a very Stephen Jones type of move to take the guy that they can control and the comfort? Stephen's a big comfort guy. I could see that being the case. There's been a very fun conspiracy theory too. That what if some of these interviews, like Brian Schottenheimer, are just to get us to accept a different candidate? It's the old, hey, this guy, the early polling wasn't very good on so-and-so. The early returns were not great. Let's leak a bad name so we all feel better about a different name. And if that is true, then it worked on me. They done got me. They boomed me. I'll take Kellen. I'll take Prime over Schottenheimer any day of the week. I also don't know if they are that smart, though. That's very conniving for an organization that just kind of doesn't care what we think, right? Despite what Jerry Jones might say. And either way, your process stinks because you didn't actually interview anybody that other teams wanted. I still think Aaron ends up going to the Jets. You didn't really try to interview these top coaches. The consensus top coaches. You're saying, we know more than everybody else, and I don't trust them to know more than everybody else. And maybe in the end, as Talking Cowboys pointed out, they don't know who they want yet. Which also worries me because you've interviewed 4 people. If you don't know who you want, interview 15. Do what the Jets and Bears did. So, predictions. Who do you think the Dallas Cowboys end up hiring as their next head coach? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I think Kellen Moore, at one point, Kellen Moore was the favorite, by the way. And I think both things are kind of true here, or at least could end up being true. The longer this goes, the more they're waiting on Kellen. Makes sense, right? Because otherwise, like, what are you doing? You're not interviewing new people, but you're not making a hire. Well, Kellen's the guy that you have to wait for to hire. That logically tracks. Unless he turned him down already and just hasn't been reported, hasn't gotten out. He's still going to use them as leverage for an Eagles extension, whatever. Or he wants a Saints job or the Jags job or something crazy. Maybe not crazy, and he goes, yeah, I'm just going to kind of stay quiet about it. And he turned him down or said, I don't really want to go down this route that you're offering. If you change your mind, come back to me. And they're kind of pivoting and don't really know where to go. Now, Robert Saleh is also still out there for now. I think if he doesn't get a head coaching job, I think he's back with the Niners. They'll make him the highest paid coach ever. Or DC right now. Maybe not ever, but in the NFL. The Jags, they loom large as well. Because Liam Coen is going back to the Bucs in what surprised me, because the Jags have Trent Baalke and no one wants that job of note. They're a real threat for Robert Saleh. The Jags finalists were allegedly Liam Coen, he's going back, Patrick Graham, the Raiders DC, and Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach. Don't think anyone would be surprised if Saleh beat out Graham for that role. No one seems to buy Leslie Frazier, by the way, as a real candidate. Now, I think he could be a DC candidate. I could very much see him, being a defensive coordinator option on a Brian Schottenheimer staff with Jason Witten in some role, and maybe they go hire outside the organization for an OC. I would always keep an eye on Anthony Lynn because I think that makes a lot of sense, regardless of who the head coach is as an OC candidate. He could even be a downline head coach candidate. If this drags out into next week, I would not be surprised if Lynn, if the Commanders lose, of course, starts getting some real interest there. I just... you got my boy Jeff Kavanaugh pointing out, hey, wouldn't be surprised if Schottenheimer. I don't like where this is at. So coming up, Deion Sanders, Nick Saban update, which I didn't mean to bury this at the end of the show, but that's how the flow worked the best for me. We are 175 subscribers away from 207K. We're going to keep having updates for you guys. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Now, as part of his interview on the Pivot podcast, Nick Saban backed Coach Prime for the job in Dallas. Ryan Clark had kind of asked, like, are you done? Do you want to go back to coaching? And Saban goes, I'm done. He goes, there's a job in Dallas, open in Dallas. And Saban, kind of going like this, like they're tight, saying, I want, like, me and Deion are tight. I want him to get that job. The Deion status hasn't really changed beyond very notable names like Coach Saban pointing out, hey, I'd like that. As a reminder of the timeline, January 13th, that Monday, right after McCarthy leaves, Prime and Jerry talk. It is reported immediately. Jane Slater eventually reports on January 16th that Prime asked Colorado for more money. Colorado reportedly resists. And then on January 19th, Rapoport says there's no interview expected. Now, I have a couple theories on this. I do wonder if this was originally a marketing ploy. And it was, a way for Deion to get more out of Colorado. There had been some initial, resistance on that. Maybe it made things a little bit more real. I do kind of think it still ends up with Deion getting a new deal in Colorado at some point. But I would so much rather hire Deion Sanders than Brian Schottenheimer. And I'm not even a big Deion in the NFL guy. I think he's going to be way better as a college coach. But that is where this search has me. I am mentally prepared, as my boy Kavanaugh pointed out, for Schottenheimer to be the coach. Doesn't mean I'm in a good mental spot with it, because I'm not. It's a terrible idea. It's a joke of a hire and a joke of a search. But I would take Coach Prime over Schotty any day of the week and twice on Sunday, too, even though it would just be a bigger circus than it already is. Once again, thank you so much to Fume for sponsoring today's video. Scan the QR code and use code ChatSport to get your free Fume topper when you order the Journey Pack today.